Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we have a few things to discuss, and this video's gonna be kind of complicated because there's a thing in Andor season 2 that is extraordinarily controversial. Um, I mean, extraordinarily controversial. Like I haven't seen something that's controversial in Star Wars in a minute. Um, and I have mixed feelings on it, kind of. Um, but yeah, just to start off, we'll start with Andor and then go over Celebration after. But Andor season 2 came out yesterday. And what do I think? It was good. It was a good start to the season. And critics are saying, it's the best Star Wars show ever made. It's one of the best shows of the decade. It has 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, etc. Do I think it's earned it yet? Absolutely not. But does that mean it will not earn it later on in the season? I don't think so. I think at some point, it'll be a slow rise to that. And even the critics said, I read reviews, that the first half is nowhere near as good as the second half. And that the second half of the season is the season is really, really, really well done. And it's gonna change the way you view the Empire and the Rebellion, and so it's a big deal. A lot of what's going on right now is just leading to that moment. But they did say that this arc was the weakest out of the season, which showed. I don't think it was bad at all. I know some people think it was really bad. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was really well written, really well edited. It was put together pretty well. And yeah, I mean it looked amazing, like the sets and the costumes and the cinematography, and all that was incredible. There was a lot more action in these 3 episodes than pretty much the entire last season. So it definitely felt quicker than the first season. It definitely was not as slow. It was still, it would still be considered slow burn, especially for Star Wars, but it's a lot quicker than the first season. Because they're also cutting between three timelines. There's Cassian's, timeline. There's Dedra Miro's and Cyril's timeline, and there's Mon Mothma, Luthen, etc., and they have their own thing. So it's like three places at once, and they're cutting between them constantly, and so it's enough to keep you kind of engaged. But yeah, the TIE heist scene was really cool. I love the TIE Avenger. It looks really cool. It's sick. It is a beast, like an absolute beast. Super powerful. It's crazy. And then another thing that I really enjoyed about Andor Season 2 so far was the inclusion of Imperial Stormtroopers. That alone made it feel way more like Star Wars than the last season, where we had these random security people, and it was like, what? Is this Star Wars, or is this, But then, I mean, now it makes sense to me why they did that. And I'm fine with it now, but back then I was pissed that we didn't have stormtroopers till halfway through the season, and then they were barely in it, and I'm like, this is the Empire, where are the stormtroopers, right? But that was so early on, I believe, in the years of the Empire, that we were in such tight corners of the galaxy at that time, and they hadn't quite expanded yet. But now we are getting closer and closer to Rogue One, which means there's more and more stormtroopers, more and more Titan security, so therefore there needs to be more army troopers everywhere. And that's what the stormtroopers are. They're like the Imperial Army, basically. So I'm very happy that they're very predominantly in this season. And just seeing like the transports full of officers and stormtroopers and all the Imperial equipment and seeing a Star Destroyer, like all those things just made it feel even more like Star Wars than what they've done previously with the show. So that was nice. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else before we get to the thing? The music, not as good as season one because Nicholas Britell did not compose this season. Um, Due to scheduling conflicts, which is really unfortunate because the Andor season one soundtrack is absolutely gorgeous all the way through. And there's still those main themes, like Andor's theme and, Dedra's theme, and like all those themes are still there and they're played pretty often, but the original music for this season is not as strong, I don't think. It's a lot more just like baseline television score. Which is fine, I mean, it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't like The Acolyte where I was like, holy shit, this is horrible, but it was definitely not, it didn't stick out to me really ever. Yeah, the blaster fights were really well choreographed and coordinated and felt real. Even season so far has felt so grounded, like just so incredibly grounded. Um, and I think that's really cool, that we have a Star Wars show that's literally about just people who are just not special. Like they're just people with blasters trying to make their way in the galaxy. They don't have indestructible armor. They don't have the Force. They don't have lightsabers. They're not these giant heroes who are like ultra skilled and whatever. They're like people. Like Cassian is a experienced soldier with lots of past trauma and whatever. Like that is Cassian Andor. Therefore he can't shoot himself out of being surrounded like Mando could. It's like that's the difference. It's like this is like really real. It's like putting yourself in that situation. Cassian's very smart and he's very resourceful, but those are human qualities too. So it's like it's cool to see that. And that's okay for this show. But would I want every Star Wars show to be so grounded like this? Absolutely not, and it can't be. But for this project, it makes sense and it works. So I'm okay with it, and I think it's cool and I enjoy it. Just seeing those kind of raw blaster fights that are just so riveting and exciting, because in Andor, you never know who's going to die. Because they've made every character in the show disposable. Like Brazo got killed, in the third episode. And he was a big character in season one on Ferrix, and he was part of the main Ferrix, squad, and they just took him out. It's like they don't hold back with this show. And in ways that's great. And then before I get to the thing, Krennic was in episode 1, and I was very surprised that they brought him in early, that early. He was in like the beginning of episode 1. Like the middle, I guess, but holy crap, was it cool to see him again. I was like, it's been a minute, dude. It's been almost 10 years since we've seen him. And Ben Mendelsohn delivered. He did an amazing job. He was written really well. Krennic had that like authoritarian, strict, radical, harsh character, that he had, and demeanor that he had in Rogue One. And it carried into Andor very, very, very well. Or I guess technically it's vice versa, but he is the same character and they did him really well. He is acting how he should be acting. And the meeting he has in this season is he's recruiting his team for the Death Star project, so it's all leading to Rogue One. So, that was really good for consistency and keeping the story going. But, hearing him talk about, I spoke with the Emperor and, all that stuff and whatever, that was just so cool. And that was the most Star Wars feeling part, I'd say, out of the season so far was, just because we're talking about the intricacies of the Empire, and I think that that's really cool. And I actually really love when it's just we're in the middle of those Imperial, what's it called? Meetings and stuff. They were in A New Hope and they were really cool, and they were in Andor season 1 with not Tarkin, Yularen, and it's just such a cool thing to be in the eyes of the enemy. To be like in their perspective. It's so cool, and we got to see it with Krennic, who's one of my favorite Imperial characters in Star Wars ever. He's just was such a enduring, powerful force. And I really liked him in Rogue One, so I'm glad he's back, and he's gonna be back for more. And the trailers confirm that too, so I'm very excited for that. Now this is the part where we get into some of the not so great element. Okay, look. In Star Wars, George made So already this show is not in George's vision. I mean, I love Andor, but it is not George Lucas Star Wars at all. And there is zero justification for that. It pretty much goes against everything of his vision other than the Force, because it's just not there, obviously. But Andor is just not, it is not George Lucas Star Wars at all. It's its own thing, which, again, for this rare occasion, since their writing is so strong, it works. But I think they went too far with a scene. And I guess YouTube is super weird about you saying a word, which leave it up to the media to censor you from saying a word that isn't even offensive, but there's grape. There's a scene where an Imperial officer tries to grape Bix, basically. And you see he goes once and he flirts with her. He leaves and he comes back and he really tries to go after her, and he grabs her, and it's this whole thing, and they fight and stuff, and then Bix kills him. Which, good for her. But I don't think that we should have SA in Star Wars. I mean, that's way too far in the down to earth. You still have to remember you are making Star Wars, And as grounded as the first season was, it didn't go to lengths like that. It was just, you didn't have the Force, you didn't have lightsabers. That was really the only piece of season 1 that just really was weird. There was just nothing having to do with one of the central elements of George Star Wars, and that was weird and off-putting, but it grew on me, But this, I don't think that I don't think it was necessary. And as Theory said in a recent video, and it just dropped an hour ago, you can imply really dark things in Star Wars. You can imply it, but you don't want to necessarily show it. The scene with Anakin and the younglings, we see him ignite his lightsaber and it cuts. We don't go further than that because that's too murky, it's too dark, and it's unnecessary. And look, Star Wars, here's one thing with Star Wars that you across the board have to do. Star Wars is supposed to kind of take you out of the darkness of this world. I mean, it can have dark things in it for sure, but you should get something out of those dark moments that inspire hope or something in you. And that scene was it's just not Star Wars. You don't do that in Star Wars. You don't go to those egregious lengths of violence in Star Wars. That's just not how it works. And, I've been saying this forever. You have all these cringy TikTok kids who just found out Star Wars exists, with The Mandalorian, and they think they rule the franchise and they know everything and all this shit. And it's like, make an R-rated Star Wars Vader project. It's like, no, that is not. Star Wars was aimed, when it first came out, at the mind of a 12-year-old. It was coordinated so that a 12-year-old could watch Star Wars and enjoy it and grow from it. But it also had themes for adults to connect with it and teenagers to connect with it, right? So it's like this multi-layered thing, but at the heart of Star Wars, a 12-year-old should be able to put Star Wars on and enjoy it and have it be at least like appropriate for them, you know? And Star Wars is also, it's a fantastical world at its core, you know? There are themes in Star Wars, I'd say, that are on the darker side, no pun intended, and everything, but and that are real, which is great. And those are some of my favorite parts of Star Wars, is having connections to the real world, but they're thematic connections. They're not literal connections. Like, they're not showing an exact replication of our world. It's just like, thematically, you're like, oh, this seems so familiar to this event. It's like, oh, that's cool. But it's not like showing it, right? So, for example, like Hitler himself is not in Star Wars. Or like the Nazis themselves are not in Star Wars. But they're thematically implied that they are the Empire, you know? And then, even then the name of the stormtroopers, that has connections and thematic connections with the Nazi name for their troopers, but again, it's implied, it's not literal, it's not shoved in your face. This is another example. In history, grape was a very common occurrence with soldiers who were just kind of fucked in the head, would raid villages or towns or whatever, depends on the era, or cities. And when they're done, doing their thing and they're doing their mission or whatever, or sometimes even during, they'd break into homes and find the women and do that with them. And that did happen. So, in terms of would that stuff happen, it would happen. I don't think that that's out of the picture, because the Empire is... Here's the thing, is it's not even an Empire thing. Because they're not trying to look bad, and that's blatant. That's a different kind of evil. That's like a blatant show sign. That's another level of evil. Like, the Empire is politically evil to some people. To me, to some people. But that's politics. That, grape, that is evil in the soul. That's like devil. That is evil, like evil. And the Empire didn't condone for things like that. So my assumption is they're trying to make the Empire look as nasty as possible. And it's like, sure, and there's 1,000 ways to do that. George already did it anyways. He had them blow up, Alderaan, and, there's enslave Wookiees and whatever. Like, he's already done that. But guess what? It's implied. You're not watching the Alderaanians melt like the Japanese during Hiroshima. You don't see their skin melt off their face and them screaming and blowing up. You don't see that. You see it all from the outside. What they go through is implied. The Wookiee stuff is mentioned in dialogue or mentioned in books. It's not shown to you. It's not, you don't see them whipping and abusing Wookiees. Even in Solo, which is Disney Star Wars, like, you see it, but it's not overly brutal. It's like you cannot be overly insanely brutal in Star Wars. It just doesn't work. And here's the thing, is the Empire wouldn't condone for rape. They wouldn't. That's the thing. Is like, and Theory was right about this. I know it sounds like I'm stealing everything he said, but I actually thought of these things too. Because God forbid I'm a real fan. Jesus. Darth Vader would not condone that. Because Vader, at his core, is still Anakin Skywalker. He still has a soul. Kind of. It's very not all there anymore, but it's still there. And he wouldn't watch that happen and allow that to happen. Darth Vader wouldn't do that. He'd kill the officer. He would have killed him. Probably killed both of them, but he definitely would have killed the officer. That's what Vader would have done in that situation. Because that just makes the Empire look bad. It's horrible PR. I mean, think about it. Is the Empire probably concerned about, oh, poor woman? No, but they're concerned about their reputation and their look. If news gets out that one of their officers are going around raping women, that's not going to help them look good. It's not going to help them look good at all. And they have no way around that. There's no way around. There's no justification for doing that. There's zero justification. Blowing up Alderaan, you could say, oh, they were planning to, assassinate the Emperor, and that was the only way to, there's ways to get around that, but there is no way to go around that. So the Emperor and Vader, they would, and higher ups, they would just be like, what the hell? And look, take Vader out of the picture. If a superior officer found out that an officer did that, who knows? He probably would have demoted him, killed him, booted him for insubordination. Like, you don't know. Like, they don't condone that kind of stuff. So, if that was their intent, to make the Empire look evil, it doesn't make sense. And it's unnecessary. Like, really and truly. It's so unnecessary. There's so many ways to do that, and like, it's a weird situation, as you can tell, because, like, objectively, take the bigger picture away. In the moment, would that happen? Yes, I'm sure. That officer is just an effed up dude. Okay, that's fine. If the point they're trying to make is this stuff happens sometimes, okay, it's like, yeah, again, unnecessary to put it in Star Wars, put it in another show, but yeah, we get it happens, dude. We know what happens, right? And then I'd be more like, I don't like it, but okay. But I believe what they were trying to imply is that the Empire is so evil and that they do this to people and oh, this and that. It's like, no, dude, no. But here's the thing. Like, it's ridiculous we're even having this conversation because I don't think that should be in Star Wars, period. Because Star Wars is supposed to take you out. It's not supposed to put you in the middle of a deeply traumatic situation that real people in this world have. It should not do that. At all. What am I supposed to take away from that moment? What am I supposed to take away? There's nothing to take away. There's no, oh, she really fought for her feet. No, she just killed him. That's what anyone would do if they were trying in that situation. They'd try to kill him. Or get away, or whatever, and she did that. Okay. What did I take away from that moment? I took nothing away. Then it happened. The whole reason that's there is to try to further this whole thing that this show is for adults. it's for the grown-ups. This show is for uh people with taste. This show is for, oh my gosh, oh, it's for this and that and the other and the smoking French people. That's what this is for. It's like, no, Star Wars isn't for you guys. It's not for the critics. It's not for Hollywood. It's not for these weird, snobby, egotistical, shitty film kids. It's not for them. Star Wars is for Star Wars fans and the general audience. That's what Star Wars is for. And knowing that's your main audience, you should pivot that direction. And Andor Season 1 was a stretch, but it was written so well that I didn't care. That I was just like, this, I'm going to take this great writing, you know? Even though it's not Star Wars, I will take the writing, because as a show, that first season was killer. It was so killer. But this was just crossing the line for me. That was like, I'm totally fine with Dark and Grounded, but this is not okay. You know, and look, in Return of the Jedi with Leia in that bikini, you don't think that she got, you know, inappropriate things said to her or done to her. You don't think that happened? I'm sure it did. But did George show it? No. Because that's not Star Wars. Star Wars is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to take you out. It's supposed to tell you a good story. Star Wars isn't here for it to win 1,000 awards and all that shit. That's not why it's here. It's to inspire generations of people, you know. And that scene just didn't line up with the ideologies of Star Wars whatsoever. Yeah, no. And it's like, if you take Star Wars out of the show, would that scene be controversial? No. But it's a Star Wars show. It's Star Wars. You put the Star Wars name on it, therefore you have to honor it. You know, you cannot just put a Star Wars skin over your stupid other show, you know? That's not cool. And I am telling you guys, Andor Season 1 is such a rare exception for me. I'm very ardently with George Lucas Star Wars, and I do not have a lot of breathing room. So the fact that I let Andor Season 1 slide means they really killed it. Like, they really killed it with the writing. You know, and they didn't mess up any legacy characters, and that was one where I was like, okay. And they didn't do anything crazy. They did nothing crazy. It was just like blasters and not a lot of stormtroopers. Okay? But having a scene with SA and Grape, like, please, that is ridiculous. That is pushing it, you know, and I've said that enough, but yeah, not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that. Is that going to ruin the whole show for me or the whole season? No. If the season ends up being good and I do a rewatch at some point, is that scene going to, like, am I going to skip it and be like, oh, I cannot bear watching this? No. But just thinking from the outside, it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. I'm not, like, so passionate about, oh, this is the worst thing. It's like, no, it's not, but it shouldn't be there. Like, let's be honest, that stuff isn't for Star Wars, you know? That's way too real-worldy. It's like, take all that out of my space fantasy, space opera adventure franchise, you know? Like, that's what Star Wars is. You know? And even though Season 1 was grounded as hell, it still had, you know, like, all these, it still felt not of this world, you know? Like, I don't know, it did not feel like of this world to me. I don't know why, it just didn't. There's probably all the technology, and the Aldani's were really weird. I was like, in their traditions, and all the big, the star, not what was it called, meteorite storm thing in the prison. I mean, the heist episode, like that wouldn't really happen. There's like just these little things that took you out of the real world in season 1 that worked. And in this season, at first, there are stormtroopers, you're in an Imperial hangar bay, there's a TIE fighter, and you're zipping and ripping through doors, and you're lasering, and I'm like, holy shit, this is totally different from season 1. And, there's this scene where Andor, he just, when he hears that there's Imperials on Mina Rao, he has no chill. He's like, all right, bro, no. And he just zips in there, he shoots down the Imperial ships, and he just blows them to hell. He blows up a silo, burying a squad of stormtroopers. Like, it's crazy. He just goes in there, he's like, boom, you're done, you're out. And then he gets his friends. That's cool. Look, Cassian's storyline, I had zero issue with. Cassian as a character, zero issue with. In fact, I think they should have given him more screen time than they did. Because that was sick, dude. All his stuff was great. I have zero issue with his stuff. But that stuff with Bix and the officer was really weird. And I didn't like it at all. It was so like, you have to be a weirdo to be writing Star Wars and to have that come to your head. You gotta be kind of weird. Like, that's just, I hate to break it to you, but come on, man. And then, I haven't talked about the Mon Mothma stuff yet. That stuff was crazy. In a good way. Her character was tormented. All 3 of those episodes, she had to watch her 13-year-old daughter get married and have her 13-year-old daughter tell her that she's crazy for saying she shouldn't do this. Then, her friend, one of her best friends of her whole life, Tacoma, is found out to be a piece of shit, a scumbag, and trying to blackmail her for hiding those funds that she sent to the rebellion. Because he's an Imperial loyalist, and this whole time he's played it so cool with her that she never picked it up. And the whole time we as an audience have thought that this guy is a chill guy and with the rebellion and stuff. Then we learn in one sentence that this man is the complete opposite. And I'm telling you, that was some of the best writing I have seen in TV in so many years. And just period. In movies and anything. In years. In like a decade. Like, that was just genius writing. I never expected that to happen. And it pushed the plot forward. Because now what? She goes and tells Luthen, and Luthen's like, all right, he's got to die. We're not going to be paying this guy to hold a secret. He could easily just slip it out of his mouth and get more money from the Empire, get more credit from the Empire, and just get us screwed over, and there's nothing we can do. So now that guy has to die. And even though he betrayed Mothma, Mothma's been with him for so long, that he's like almost family to her at this point. And now she's going to have to be involved in killing him. Like, that's horrible. That is horrible. And then, her whole relationship with her husband is still awful as well. It's like she is in a horrible situation right now. Like, I don't know how much worse you could get. She's in the most mentally just destroying situation. Just mind destroying. I mean, everything in her life has gone sideways in 3 days. Just everything is a disaster. Like a complete disaster. Because, I mean, she's trusted this guy. She's talked to this guy. Throughout all of season 1, she's talked to this guy. And, like, now he just turned his back. Not even turned his back. His back's been turned the whole time. He's just nonchalant as hell, so she never picked it up. But, I mean, that also was so real. That's happened to me. That has happened to me before. That's happened to so many people before. Where you think this person you're talking to is chill and reliable and trustworthy, whatever, and all of a sudden they say something that just totally rips your trust from them. That is so real. And this is a prime example of what I was saying earlier of thematically connecting and implying things and themes to reality in Star Wars, but keeping it in such a Star Wars-y way. And that's exactly what that was. So it's like, that was just a really real moment that worked, and could be done. That's just betrayal. But not even betrayal, it's just like, and Mon Mothma already has a really hard time trusting anybody, because the rebellion at this point is so small, and if anything gets out, that is a huge issue, so, it's still like the Axis network at this point. Like, they haven't even met the rebellion yet. Yavin 4 hasn't even been set up, and that reveal, by the way, was amazing. When they pan up, we've been in this place, in this forest, for 2 episodes straight, and then or I think it was 3 episodes straight, and then they pan up, and it's Yavin. We've been on Yavin the entire time. Like, do you know how cool that is? Like, that is so cool. That was such smart writing, man. That was like, again, the writing level of Tony Gilroy is insane. It's just, he needs more Star Wars education. I think, at least he needs, and not like, he knows the universe pretty well, I'd say. He just doesn't know the style that Star Wars should be in well at all. Like, the way George would, like, George's rules and stuff, he's not knowledgeable on. And the fact that no one at Lucasfilm said a word to him about that scene is insane. And that means that we're screwed. Like, they do not care what comes out of there anymore. I mean, if they're going to allow that, who knows? Who knows at this point? Like, that's just crazy. That's weird. That is weird. And I mean, we're more screwed in the sense of them doing odd things like that. Now I'm hoping character and Star Wars universe wise that they'll be a little better now, but probably not. It's the same people who've been there for years, so probably not. But with all these new shows, and especially one of them centric around a main character of Star Wars, Darth Maul, that has to be close to flawless and maintaining that character, and not screwing up the timeline and screwing up the character's development and everything. And, there's great writers on that, though, who know Star Wars, so I think we're better off there. But, this is something they should not have done that stuff in a Star Wars show. That's just not okay. But, yeah. So, Andor Season 2, what would I give these first 3 episodes out of 10? I'd give it definitely more on the positive end than most, just because I see the writing stuff and I recognize how impressive it looks and all that. I'd give it a 7 for these first 3. And that's good. That's a good score. It just has to increase. It has to increase by the next arc. It has to increase. And if it doesn't, that's an issue. And that is where I'm going to start to be concerned. If it doesn't get better. if it's the same now as it is throughout the show, that's just really bad, and that just means the critics are smoking crack yet again. So, yeah, and from what it sounds like, you will be able to see a difference later on. So, we'll see. And this was a lot of exposition too, because we've been without these characters for 3 years now, so they're kind of reintroducing them and everything. So that's really what this arc was for. Was just to catch up on everyone. And then already at the end of the third episode, with Brazo dead, and now they're like, they don't know where to go because their safe planet was taken over by the Empire. Now we're in this kind of unbeknownst atmosphere. So we'll see where it goes. But I'm actually very curious and a little excited to see what happens with this season, because it's just kind of unpredictable. Like, now we're at this point where it's jumping a year every arc. So it'll be a totally different, it should be a totally different situation every arc. Totally different planets, different missions, different people involved every time. So I'm curious to see what will happen. But yeah, so, I'm not disappointed, I'd say. I'm just like, I didn't think that's how the season would start, I could not predict that, and all right. We'll see. We will see. Yeah, so with that, that's Andor season 2 so far. It's, from what everyone's saying, it sounds like it's gonna end up being great. So I hope it does. Now, right, Celebration. So much stuff happened. So much stuff happened. So the leaks are all true from the Den of Nerds guy. From Josh's guy. They're all completely true. Everything that guy said was said at Celebration. And some of it wasn't said, but, it wasn't denied. Like, Anakin is coming back in Ahsoka season 2. They're not going to reveal all the big things. They're not going to tell you, oh yeah, by the way, Obi-Wan's in it and Ahsoka's in it. They don't do that. They're going to keep it a secret till it happens. But we did get them all announced. Like, everything that he said was going to be announced at Celebration was announced. So that's really cool. That source is active. So we know that all that's happening pretty much, unless things change creatively from now and then, but until then. But I mean, we're getting Admiral Akbar versus Thrawn in a huge fleet battle in season 2. Rory McCann, we got images of him as Balin, and he looks great. That whole season, I hope is just really, really well done. And it would really disappoint me if it wasn't good. But they're setting it up for success for sure. And then Maul Shadowlord looks incredible. I saw the trailer. It has Maul. It has Talon. It looks beautiful. It's about Maul's kind of rise to power within, Crimson Dawn and the whole criminal organization piece that we saw him for a minute of in Solo, but that's really all we knew about him in that period of time. And then by Rebels, he's lost, and fallen out of it, which is Maul's character. He's Sisyphus, he's pushing the rock up the hill, and then right as he gets to the top, it just tumbles back down and he has to start over. That is Maul's character. That's how George wrote him. So, in this show, I think we're going to see his rise to that edge, and hopefully we see his fall as well, because we kind of have to, but at some point. But yeah, getting Darth Talon, that's crazy. That is crazy. That's like George's sequel scripts were Maul and Talon, and Talon training under Maul, and that's happening in this show. Like, that's crazy. So who knows what they're going to do with her. Obviously, Maul's killed off in Rebels, but she could go far, especially because I believe she's young in Maul Shadow Lord. So there's a lot they could do there. Um, very exciting, very exciting there. We're getting a new film called Star Wars Starfighter with Ryan Gosling and Sean Levy, and I love both of those guys to death. Like I love Sean Levy as a filmmaker. I love Ryan Gosling as an actor. You know, he's incredible in everything he does, and he's just is so iconic too. So that duo is crazy. You know, now they still again have the same criteria as everyone else. They need to know Star Wars, they need to know the world, they need to know George's rules. Once they do, then have at it. And I will be there in the theater. I will be excited, whatever. And they're claiming that they are fans and that we should have nothing to be worried about and that this is made by real fans. We are you guys, whatever. Leslie Headland also called herself a fan, though, so I'm a little skeptical, but Ryan, I trust him. He's just, you know. And Sean, too. They're both just really real people. Like, they're not ones to lie. But again, everyone has their own interpretation of what they think Star Wars is without knowing the facts, you know. So who knows if they know the facts. But I have high hopes because Sean Levy is at least a decent human being. So he's really real. He's a very real human in Hollywood. So, and so is Ryan Gosling, obviously, but I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm curious to see how that will unfold. It's after Rise of Skywalker. They said it has zero connection with anything that came before, so it's very much its own thing. I guess some sequel characters might show up, but like they're gonna be very minor roles and whatever. So, you know, it's not going to be a sequel trilogy film. It's a very standalone thing outside of the saga completely. Everything's done. I'm very curious to see how that's going to unfold, and that's really going to kickstart that era. You know, that's going to start the next era of Star Wars, which is a big deal. So they better kill it, man. They have to, because they are starting it. This has to be the Mandalorian of the after Episode 9 era, which doesn't even have a name yet. Oh, actually, it might. It does. The New Jedi Order era. Is that what it's called? Something like that. But, you know, this has to be a very strong start for me to want to continue watching that timeline. You know, I won't watch the Rey movie, obviously, but if there's other things in there that are cool like this, you know, sure. You know, it's exciting. I don't know. I know some people are just like, who cares? But I love Sean Levy and I love Ryan Gosling and God, I love Star Wars. So put all those three things together and I'm in. You know, that's sick. I'm very excited for that. Also, Mandalorian and Grogu. We got another trailer for that. And it's not released online because they said they're not ready to release a full trailer online yet. But that looks great. And, you know, I've said before that, you know, our leaker was like, the plot is really not big. It's very small, simple, whatever. And he's predicting that might impact box office and whatever. But, you know, that concerned me. And I was like, well, this might suck. You know, but then I saw that. And I'm like, this is going to be fun as hell. Hell is not fun. Fun is heaven. It's gonna be great, man. It's gonna be really fun, and it's gonna be an action adventure film, and that is Jon Favreau's strong suit. He is so good at making action adventure films. This man made Iron Man. If he keeps that level of action adventure, we are in for a wild ride. Pedro Pascal said it's one of the best action adventure films he's ever seen. So this is going to be crazy. And Jon Favreau is so insanely talented that, like, this is going to be cool. It is going to be really cool. And from what we saw, They were in an AT-AT, and it was a oneer. It was one shot. I mean, seeing the AT-AT pilots and like modern graphics and modern, like that was so cool. And you go down, there's all these snow troopers getting their gear ready. A door bursts open. It's Mando. Mando is just going insane. He's like blasting all of them, stabbing them, flamethrower, like whistling birds. Like he just goes through these guys like they're nothing, like they're little targets. And that is Mando. He is that good, and he just clears the room like with ease. It's like watching a dance. And it's so accurate to his character. And it's so cool. I'm like, this is just sick. And then the door's shut of the cockpit, and you turn to the officer, and the officer's like, oh shit. And then we cut to other stuff. But like that shot alone was like, all right, this is gonna be cool, And then we watch an AT-AT explode, and it like another one falls over down a cliff. We get Sigourney Weaver, and her role. What else do we get? We get the Razor Crest flying. We get Zeb. We get, it's like, it's going to be so fun. We get our boy, Rada the Huttlet. Now Rada the Hutt is jacked. Holy crap. He's huge. He's a gladiator now. And you're telling me that this is the guy they have to go protect? This guy's no baby anymore. He is huge. He's like Gracchus. I don't know if you guys remember Gracchus the Hutt from Legends. They're practically the same. They're very similar. They're just these monstrous buff Hutts. These Hutts who are the strong, huge gangsters. That's what Rada's become. Because, the whole Hutt family mafia fell to shit, So, especially after Jabba died. So, now, it's pretty all over the place, and I'm sure he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a gladiator. That's sick, though. That was really cool and very unexpected. I was not expecting that. I grew up with that little disgusting larva. When I was a kid, the first thing I saw was the Clone Wars movie, and that's how I was introduced to Star Wars when I was 3 years old, was Clone Wars, and I really strongly remember it was the Clone Wars movie. Or an episode or something, but I saw that film very, very, very early on, like before any of the other ones. And, I have a connection with him because he was one of the first Star Wars characters I met, and I've always thought he was just kind of silly and funny, and, and I heard he was coming back, I was like, oh, that's like, it's like full circle. Now, now I'm like, I know this story better than most people, and I'm like, not to be cocky, but it's true. And, it's just like I've grown with this franchise so much. I've seen it rise and fall and rise. And it's like, I've seen its ups and downs. And it's like now finally I'm 17 years old, almost an adult. Been a Star Wars fan for like over 10 years. How long now? When I was 14 years. I've been a Star Wars fan now. 15. 15 years I have been a Star Wars fan. That's insane. No, 14. 14 or 15 years. That's wild. So, it's just kind of a full circle thing for me. And now it makes sense why there is an actual, like actor playing him. Because he is a buff-ass gladiator, so they need someone to mocap all that. But yeah, now that makes sense, I was like, Jeremy Allen White, so what is he going to do, like, Hutt sounds? Like, just use, like, huh? I was so confused. But I was like, okay, whatever, that's kind of funny. The bear guy is going to be, like, screaming at fucking his servants. Get the food faster, it's like that, I don't know, it's just funny to me. I'm like, okay. Get me my fucking frogs faster. Get me my fucking frogs faster, bitch. Like that's how I picture Jeremy Allen White playing a Hutt, but I guess this is different. This is very different. So, my boy is not a Huttlet anymore. He's on trend. He took trend, and now he took Star Wars trend and a lot of spice, and now he's this monster beast. So that is going to be interesting to see. We did not get a shot of Embo. Probably haven't edited those scenes yet. They've shot it probably, but haven't edited it yet. But yeah, exciting, very cool. Looking forward to it. What else? That's all I remember. Oh yeah, this is huge. Star Wars Celebration is coming to Los Angeles in 2027. I will be there. That's an hour away from me. I will be there. That's so exciting. That's so exciting. Goodness gracious, that is exciting. Holy crap. Dude, I freaked out. I was like, I was like, all right, there's this tiny piece of me that's like, please be in LA. Please be in Anaheim. I was like, please just be somewhere near me. Be in driving distance from me, please. And I was like, there's no way. Because it was in Anaheim in 2022, and then it was in London, then it was in Japan. I'm like, it's definitely going to be in Florida or somewhere else. I don't think it's going to be here, you know. It's back. And not to mention, I mean, yeah, it's back in California, but they haven't done a celebration in LA since 2006. So this is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal to me. It's a very, very big deal to LA. It's a very, very big deal to many people. So I'm so thrilled for that. And I already put it on my calendar. I blocked that whole week out. Who knows? And what's kind of creepy to me is that's so far away, and I'll be like in college and well, college aged and all that. Probably in college. I mean, I don't know where I'll be, what kind of stuff I'll be doing. I mean, I know it'll be filmed, but like, that's so broad, you know, who knows, like, what I'll be working with, who I'll be working with, right? That's so far, but not far. Like, it's really not that far. It's 2 years away. That's not that far, but these 2 years are very significant for me, at least, so that'll be interesting. But I already put it on my calendar, so I'll try to block that time out, obviously, when it comes that my way, and I will save my money for the Grand Master Pass, all 4 days, really take advantage of this, you know, because when I went in 2022, I just really didn't understand. It was my first convention ever, so I didn't really know what it was like, and I was just a noob. You know, I was like, there's no YouTube tutorial that prepares you for your first convention day. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own and with your fellow fans or whatever by you. And you know what? Props to Star Wars Celebration for being civilized. I mean, now looking back on it, I'm so grateful for how cool Star Wars fans are and how they aren't just so weird, man. Like, I went to LA Comic Con and I was so uncomfortable for a lot of that. I was just like, these people are not. I was like, what is going on? Why are these people so weird? I was like, why, like, you know, it's like, these guys haven't seen the sun in 8 years, and then this person's a furry, and it's like, oh, God. And then you'd be by the Star Wars section, and you'd be like, oh, okay, we're with normal people for a minute. And then you'd go back out, and you're like, oh. Oh, God. Yeah, that was an experience. Yeah, and then same thing. Comic-Con San Diego was pretty chill. Obviously, there was still some weirdness, but overall, it was kind of like Celebration. It was pretty normal people. There were some exceptions, obviously, but overall, pretty normal. But Celebration was the most chill convention crowd I've had, and probably will have. So I'm very much looking forward to it in 2027. I'm hoping, most likely, you know, like I said before, you'll see my face somewhere, but who knows? This channel, bro, chances are if I can pop in a video like this, every once in a while, then you'll get some content from there. I know I haven't really done any like vlog content, but that time I will have lots of time, because if I do all 4 days, I'll know the floor very well, at that point, because I've been going through it for 4 days straight. So I won't mind, going and filming a thing, going through the hall and whatever, and filming some of the panels, that I'm allowed to film and whatever. Yeah, dude, it's so exciting, man. Celebration's so cool. And I remember literally last video, I was like, what is there to celebrate about Star Wars right now? And truly there wasn't. There was nothing. I was like, there is nothing planned. We have Tales of the Underworld, which is gonna be sick, but like, and obviously Andor, but that's been announced for years. Like, what am I gonna celebrate? What am I gonna celebrate? And then they dropped all that, and I was like, what the heck? What the heck? Yeah. And there's some cool books coming out, I think. I swear there was other stuff I'm forgetting too. But yeah, there's some cool stuff coming up. In 2026. In 2026, we're going to be really busy with Star Wars. And then 2027, that's the 50th anniversary. So not only is it in LA, get this, not only is it in LA, not only is it the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, that is a staple Star Wars celebration. That is a huge, massive big deal. That's one that'll be in all the Star Wars history books, like year by year and all that. Like, that's a big deal. And all over the news, mind you. The 50th anniversary, like, that's a big deal. And that also means there's a possible George appearance. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. And you're telling me that George either won't be there or won't give him like a video message? Like, that's crazy. I have a strong suspicion he'll pull up. And that will be even bigger deal for me, but I'll probably, if he's at like the grand opening of the Lucas Museum, I'll see him there, obviously, and that'll be a year earlier. But, I do want to see him in real life at some point, before he passes. Because, I don't know, he's made such a huge impact on my life. It would be kind of a shame not to see him in real life at some point. I don't know if I'll ever be able to meet him, like, personally, but just to see him in real life would be crazy, so that is a big chance there for that. So all these things, and it is happening on my birthday weekend, and I will be turning the age of Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. Like, do you know how, like, that is not a coincidence. Like, I really, and then these people are like, oh, that's just a statistical coincidence. No, bro, that is the Lord. That is the Lord. I'm telling you that, like, that is crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, so it looks like I'm not going away to college anywhere. That made me decide. I already knew I pretty much wasn't, but that really solidifies it. Like, I gotta be here. I gotta be in town for this, so, yeah. Praise the Lord. That was cool. But anyways, I think that's kind of it, for this video. Andor Season 2, it was good. I hope it gets better. And I'll take good over Acolyte all day. So, yeah. So, yeah. Andor Season 2 is good. Celebration is exciting. 2027, Los Angeles. Honestly, unpopular opinion, the announcement that excited me the most. It was that and Maul Shadow Lord were the two that I was like, holy crap. And I already knew Anakin was going to be in Ahsoka Season 2, so it's just like, all right, yeah, I knew already, but you can surprise me. Like, I can't predict your actions, But obviously, that's a huge deal. And if it was a surprise and I didn't know at all and I was clueless, that would be the biggest thing. But I already knew, so it's like, yeah. But yeah, I'm very excited for the future of Star Wars and very curious to see where it goes. You know, I guarantee you we will have some more bumps in the road, but we will also probably have some cool stuff too. So I'm watching Revenge of the Sith in theaters tomorrow in 40X. That is so exciting. Thought I'd share this. I already bought the bucket. I already bought the cup. My boy, 501st Talk picked that up for me. He no longer has a channel. He just, I guess, wasn't into it, but he exists still, and he picked those up for me because my local theater didn't have it yet. So, props to fucking my local Cinemark, Jesus. But, yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow, so that's gonna be crazy, and I will post something about that, either on the Saudi video Instagram or here, or both. We'll see, but very excited for that. So I will see you guys in the next one. Yeah, may the force be with you always. Goodbye.